a man who once commanded respect across Nigeria, who wore the finest agbada and carried himself like royalty, now kneeling in the dusty streets of Onitsha. His designer clothes replaced by tattered rags, his proud shoulders now bent with shame. This is Eugene, and he's begging, literally begging, the woman he once threw out of their own home. "Agatha, please," he whispers, his voice breaking. "I know I don't deserve it, but please, forgive me." But how did a billionaire, yes, a billionaire, end up this desperate? How did a man who had everything lose it all? And more importantly, what did he do to the woman standing before him that was so terrible, so heartbreaking, that even now, with tears streaming down his face, she might never forgive him? My dear friends, welcome back to our channel, where we share the most incredible African folktales that teach us profound lessons about life, love, and the consequences of our choices. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping tale of pride, betrayal, and karma, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next, and there's a sequel coming that will blow your mind. This is a story that will make you question everything you think you know about success, loyalty, and what truly matters in life. It's a tale that starts with love, builds with prosperity, but takes a turn so shocking that it will leave you both angry and amazed at how life has a way of teaching us the hardest lessons. So settle in, because what I'm about to tell you happened right in Nigeria, and it's a story that will stay with you long after this video ends. Our story begins in the bustling heart of Onitsha Main Market, where the air is thick with the smell of spices, the sound of haggling voices, and the dreams of countless entrepreneurs. This is where Eugene and Agatha met, not in some fancy restaurant or at a wealthy gathering, but among the vibrant stalls and narrow pathways where real life happens. Eugene was a young man with big dreams but empty pockets. He had a small stall where he sold provisions, rice, beans, oil, anything that could put food on someone's table. But Eugene had something special, determination. And more importantly, he had caught the eye of Agatha, a beautiful, intelligent woman who worked just 3 stalls away, selling fabrics and women's accessories. Agatha wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant. While other traders focused only on their own stalls, she had a vision. She could see opportunities where others saw problems. She understood customers, she knew how to negotiate with suppliers, and most importantly, she believed in Eugene when he had nothing but dreams. Their courtship was simple but genuine. Eugene would walk her home after the market closed, carrying her heavy bags without complaint. They would sit under the old mango tree near her family compound, talking about their dreams of expanding their businesses, of building something beautiful together. "Eugene," Agatha would say, her eyes sparkling with hope, "we can do this together. Your hard work and my ideas will build an empire." And Eugene, looking at this incredible woman who saw potential in him when the world saw nothing, would nod and say, "With you by my side, Agatha, anything is possible." And they married. It was a modest ceremony. No expensive decorations, no live band, just 2 families coming together to bless a union built on love, respect, and shared dreams. Eugene's friends joked that he was punching above his weight, that Agatha was too good for him. But Agatha would smile and say, "A good woman stands by her man, and together we become unstoppable." Little did Agatha know, her loyalty and devotion would soon be tested in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. The humble man she married was about to become someone she wouldn't recognize. What happened next was like watching a beautiful dance between 2 souls perfectly in sync. Eugene brought the hustle, the willingness to work 18-hour days, to carry heavy loads, to smile at difficult customers. But Agatha, she brought the magic. She was the one who suggested they expand from provisions to electronics. She was the one who convinced Eugene to take the loan to rent a bigger space. When Eugene was afraid of the risk, Agatha held his hand and said, "My husband, fortune favors the bold, trust me." And trust her he did. Their business exploded. From 1 small stall they grew to 3, then 5, then an entire section of the market. Agatha's keen eye for trends meant they were always ahead of the competition. When she suggested they start importing goods directly from China, Eugene hesitated. But Agatha had already done the research, contacted the suppliers, and calculated the profits. Within 5 years, they weren't just traders, they were suppliers to other traders. Their warehouse in Onitsha became a destination. Their name became synonymous with quality and reliability. Money flowed in like a river after heavy rains. Eugene bought his first car, then his first house in the prestigious GRA area. He started wearing expensive clothes, carrying himself differently. People who once ignored him now greeted him with respect. Chief Eugene, they would call him, even before he took any title. But success has a way of changing people. The humble market trader who once walked his wife home began hiring drivers. The man who once carried bags began expecting others to carry his. The Eugene who once looked at Agatha with gratitude and love began looking at her with different eyes. "I think it's time I took a chieftaincy title," he announced one evening, adjusting his new gold watch. Agatha smiled and nodded, not knowing that with that title would come a transformation that would destroy everything they had built together. But as they say, pride comes before a fall, and Eugene's fall would be more devastating than anyone could imagine. The chieftaincy title changed everything. Chief Eugene, as he now insisted everyone call him, began moving in different circles. He attended high society events, joined exclusive clubs, and started believing his own hype. The man who once treasured quiet evenings with his wife now found excuses to stay out late. "There's a business meeting," he would say, adjusting his expensive agbada. "Important people, Agatha, you wouldn't understand." But Agatha understood more than he gave her credit for. She saw the changes, felt the distance growing between them. The man who once asked for her opinion on everything now made decisions without consulting her. The partner who once credited her for their success now took all the glory. And then came the women. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed. Young, beautiful women would approach Chief Eugene at events, praising his success, laughing at his jokes, hanging onto his every word. These women, with their perfectly done hair, their revealing dresses, their practiced smiles, made Eugene feel like a king. "Chief Eugene, you're so successful," they would coo. "Such a powerful man." Eugene, who had spent years being ordinary, ate up this attention like a starving man at a feast. He began comparing these women to Agatha, his wife who had stood by him through poverty, who had built their empire alongside him, who had given him 2 beautiful children. But now, when he looked at Agatha, he didn't see the brilliant woman who had transformed his life. He saw someone who had aged, someone who was focused on their children and business instead of showering him with the constant praise he now craved. "Agatha is too serious," he would tell his new friends, "always talking about business, about the children's school fees, about responsibility. These young women, they know how to have fun." The first time Agatha caught him texting one of these women, she approached him with the grace and wisdom that had made him fall in love with her years ago. "Eugene, my husband," she said softly, "I've noticed you've been distant. Is everything okay? Are we okay?" But instead of the honest conversation they needed, Eugene exploded with anger and defensiveness. "You're imagining things, Agatha. I'm building our empire, making important connections, and all you do is question me. Maybe if you took better care of yourself, dressed better, tried to be more like other women, you'd understand what I'm trying to achieve." What happened next was so heartless, so unthinkable, that even now, as I tell this story, I can hardly believe a man could be so cruel to the woman who had given him everything. Eugene didn't just stray from his marriage, he made a calculated decision to destroy it. One evening, after months of cold treatment and growing distance, he came home with a hardness in his eyes that Agatha had never seen before. "Pack your things," he said, not even looking at her. "You and the children need to leave." Agatha thought she had misheard. "Eugene, what are you saying?" "I said pack your things. This is my house, bought with my money, and I want you out. I'm tired of this marriage. I'm tired of you." The woman who had stood by him through poverty, who had built their business with her own hands, who had given him 2 beautiful children, stood there in shock. "Eugene, we built this together. This is our home, our children's home." Our Eugene laughed bitterly. "I built this empire. I earned this money. You were just there, and now I want someone who appreciates what I've become." Within a week, Agatha found herself and her 2 children living in a modest apartment, surviving on the little money she had managed to save separately. But the cruelty didn't stop there. Eugene began parading different women through their former home, young women who cared nothing for the man he truly was, only for the money he could spend on them. Neighbors who had known them as a couple now watched in disgust as a different car with a different woman would pull up to the house every few days. These women weren't interested in Eugene's dreams or his character. They saw the expensive cars, the designer clothes, the jewelry, and they saw opportunity. They would arrive with their friends, throw parties, shop with his credit cards, and treat his home like their personal playground. "Chief Eugene is so generous," they would giggle, loading shopping bags into their cars. "He really knows how to treat a woman." But while Eugene was intoxicated by their attention and their beauty, something else was happening. The business, the empire that Agatha had helped build, was starting to crumble. Without her strategic mind, her understanding of the market, her relationships with suppliers, everything began to fall apart. Eugene was too busy enjoying his new lifestyle to notice the cracks forming in his foundation. The women in Eugene's life were beautiful, exciting, and expensive, very, very expensive. What Eugene didn't understand was that these women were professionals, not in business or careers, but in the art of extracting money from wealthy men who confused attention with affection. "Baby," they would say, running their perfectly manicured nails down his chest, "I need money for my hair appointment. You want me to look beautiful for you, don't you?" "Chief Eugene, my mother is sick. I need money for her medical bills." "Darling, my friends are laughing at me because I don't have the latest designer bag. You don't want them to think you can't afford to take care of me, do you?" Every request came with a kiss, a smile, a promise of love and loyalty. Eugene, drunk on their attention and his own pride, opened his wallet again and again. He bought them cars, paid their rent, funded their shopping sprees, and even gave them money to invest in businesses that existed only in their imagination. Meanwhile, his real business was hemorrhaging money. Suppliers who had trusted Agatha's word were now demanding payment up front. Customers who had relied on the personal touch that Agatha provided were taking their business elsewhere. The careful systems she had put in place were ignored or forgotten. Eugene was too busy playing the big man to notice that his empire was built on foundations that were crumbling without his wife's steady hand. He would arrive at the office late, leave early, and spend his time on phone calls with his various women instead of focusing on business. "Sir, the Lagos suppliers are demanding payment," his manager would say. "Handle it," Eugene would wave dismissively. "I'm too busy for these small matters." But these weren't small matters. These were the details that Agatha had always managed, the foundations that had made their success possible. Without her, Eugene was like a pilot trying to fly a plane while blindfolded, confident, but completely lost. The irony was devastating. In trying to upgrade his life, Eugene had lost the very thing that had made his success possible in the first place. But Eugene's suffering had only just begun. The downward spiral accelerated like a car racing down a hill with no brakes. By the 7th year after throwing Agatha out, Eugene's business had collapsed entirely. The suppliers had cut him off, the customers had disappeared, and the debts had mounted to impossible heights. But Eugene's problems weren't just financial, they were physical. Years of partying, excessive drinking, and the stress of trying to maintain his lifestyle while his world crumbled had taken a terrible toll on his body. The doctors delivered news that hit him like a thunderbolt: severe liver damage from alcohol abuse. "Mr. Eugene," the doctor said, his voice grave, "if you don't get treatment immediately, and if you don't stop drinking, you have maybe 6 months to live." The treatment was expensive, very expensive. Eugene looked at his bank accounts and saw numbers that made him dizzy. Where once there had been millions, now there were only debts. The women who had seemed so devoted disappeared the moment they realized the money was gone. "Baby, I need to travel to visit my sick grandmother," they would say, never to return. "Chief Eugene, my pastor said I need to take a break from worldly things," another would claim, blocking his number immediately after. One by one, they vanished like morning mist, leaving Eugene alone with his sickness and his debts. The man who had once been surrounded by people now sat alone in his big house, too proud to admit his mistakes, too sick to fix them. He sold the cars first, then the jewelry, then the furniture. Each sale was like watching his life being auctioned off piece by piece. The neighbors who had once envied him now whispered behind closed doors about his dramatic fall from grace. Finally, the house itself had to go. The mansion that had been the symbol of his success, the home he had kicked his wife and children out of, was sold to pay medical bills and debts. Eugene found himself in a small, dingy apartment, sick, broke, and completely alone. 10 years after throwing away the best thing in his life, he was about to discover just how much he had lost. While Eugene was destroying his life, Agatha was quietly building hers back from the ashes. The woman who had been discarded like yesterday's newspaper was about to show the world what she was truly made of. After the initial shock and heartbreak of being thrown out of her own home, Agatha did what she had always done: she got to work. With her 2 children depending on her, she couldn't afford the luxury of self-pity. She started small, using her savings to rent a tiny shop in a different part of Onitsha market. But Agatha had something that Eugene had forgotten she possessed: the same brilliant mind that had built their empire in the first place. She began by leveraging the relationships she had built over the years. Suppliers who had respected her integrity gave her goods on credit. Customers who had appreciated her honest dealing followed her to her new location. Within months, her small shop was thriving. But Agatha didn't stop there. She remembered all the business lessons she had learned, all the opportunities she had seen but couldn't pursue because Eugene had become too proud to listen to her ideas. Now, she was free to implement them. She expanded into online sales, something Eugene had dismissed as too complicated. She developed a home delivery service, something he had called unnecessary. She created a customer loyalty program, something he had said was too expensive. Every decision Eugene had rejected, every innovation he had dismissed, Agatha implemented with stunning success. Her business grew from one shop to 3, then to a small warehouse, then to a distribution network that covered 3 states. 10 years after being thrown out of her own home, Agatha had become a millionaire in her own right. Her children were in excellent schools, she lived in a beautiful house, and most importantly, she had rebuilt her life with dignity and grace. She had proven that she was never just along for the ride, she had been the engine all along. The knock on Agatha's door came on a rainy Tuesday evening. She opened it to find a man she barely recognized, thin, sickly, wearing clothes that had seen better days. It took her a moment to realize this broken figure was Eugene, the man who had once worn designer suits and commanded respect across Nigeria. "Agatha," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rain. "Please, can I come in?" She stood there, looking at the man who had thrown her out of her own home, who had humiliated her in front of their community, who had abandoned his own children for the attention of women, who had disappeared the moment his money ran out. Eugene fell to his knees right there on her doorstep, tears mixing with the rain on his face. "I'm dying, Agatha, my liver. The doctors say I don't have long. I've lost everything, the business, the house, the money, everything. I know I don't deserve it. I know I hurt you in ways I can never fix. But please, I'm begging you, forgive me." The proud chief Eugene was gone. In his place knelt a broken man who had finally learned the true value of what he had thrown away. But the question remained, would Agatha forgive him? And there we have it, my dear friends, the incredible story of Eugene and Agatha, a tale that shows us the true cost of pride and the devastating consequences of taking loyalty for granted. This story teaches us so many powerful lessons, that success without character is meaningless, that the people who stand by us in our struggles are the ones who truly matter, and that sometimes life has a way of teaching us the hardest lessons when we need them most. Eugene learned too late that beauty fades, that money attracts the wrong people, and that the woman who builds an empire with you is worth more than 1,000 who would spend your wealth and disappear. But here's what I want to know. What do you think Agatha should do? Should she forgive the man who destroyed their family and broke her heart? Should she take him back out of compassion? Or should she protect the peace she's built for herself and her children? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious about your thoughts. And if you want to find out what Agatha decided, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because part 2 of this incredible story is coming soon. And trust me, her response will surprise you. Have you ever witnessed someone who let success change them for the worse? Share your story in the comment.